So the continuation of our last conversation, I think we got a lot done. We had some to-dos to take away. And then the wildfire hit. And so that was an appropriate conversation because we knew we already had quite a bit done already and heard of, what from the fire chief and the police chief and public works. So, I think the purpose of this meeting will be to kind of just fine tune some of these tasks, to-dos that we were going to do. And then, we need to kind of try to consolidate all of this together here at City Hall for sure, in one location. And then in each area that's affected, maybe have some sort of checklist if there's not already there. So that no matter who's working or what's going on, if we have a state of emergency, people in each department or area would know where to go to know what they need to do. And here in the City Hall, we would have really accessible, so that, somebody's on vacation, like the mayor. That we'd be able to, proceed very quickly. So a lot of the work got done when the fire was happening, and Holly did a good job capturing the evacuation plan and that good stuff. So that obviously was a big piece that was needed, and we'll go right into this thing. So with that, we distributed the minutes of the last meeting. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look over those. So I'd like to see if somebody would move to accept those. So, okay, second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right. I passed out to most people. I didn't have enough to get to everybody. In the minutes from the last time, I highlighted a few things. One was having a list of residents relying on power for any medical devices. So the question there was, do we have that? I'm seeing Ron shake his head. No. Okay, so that's a task we still need to do. We need to compile something the best we can for that. And it was good because you have generators available to those people and the fire department. So
Bill, do we need the city to send that out as a survey or to give the city information, or Ron, what do you think?
yeah. Okay,
Our communication specialist is taking copious notes.
that's good.
We're asking about, what was the first one?
In the event of power outages, we need to know if you need a generator to come to you to keep you alive. kind of thing. Of course, I know we have a lot of people on oxygen.
Yeah.
Are those all power generated or?
Power generators are generally power generators.
No, I'm talking about oxygen. I didn't know if they were,
Well, it
could
depends.
be charged or what.
Yeah, those generators are available for what I would consider, what I personally would consider an emergency. Somebody crying because they can't charge their cell phone.
No,
Get through.
no, we're talking medical devices.
So the action step is we'll send out a survey from the city. Try to identify people that are dependent on electricity for medical devices.
Hey, Bill, I got a question.
Sure.
Because if we're trying to build this database of information, we might want to think about what other key pieces of information would be helpful to get from these residents as we're asking them.
Yep.
So we can try to capture as much and build a profile on every one of them, whether it's you know, if they have certain health conditions, or if they need oxygen, or they don't have good cell service, or I don't know what it might be, but might want to think about what are some of those key pieces of information we want to know about everybody in case of an emergency. So we're prepared to like kind of go through that and look at who needs what and where they are.
Right.
Mobility,
Yeah, I was gonna say, and yes, okay.
even like entrance to the home with the steep driveways.
Mhm.
Maybe we need to compile that list before we send out the survey.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll brainstorm some of the key things to put on the survey. All right,
Medicine, I'm sure would be one.
Ron, you had stated the department had divided the city into 4 sections. And suggested that each section have a designated spokesperson to keep up with the rest of the section there.
I've reached out to a few people to see if they'd be interested, and so far no takers.
Okay.
I'll keep asking around if y'all, have any suggestions.
Ron, how are you explaining what their duties would be if you find these section captains or whatever we call it?
In the event of an emergency, they would be the ones that know their area well, who needs what, who doesn't have transportation, the person we can go to put out information. They can be sure that the information gets to the people that need to know it.
And do you have some sort of diagram or map of those 4 areas? Okay.
I think I've probably got one.
Yeah, would you give that to Sharon if you have it?
She's actually helped me draw it up.
Oh, okay, so we already have it here.
Yes.
Okay,
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm just curious, for my own information, how many residents do we have in here? Do we have any?
Depends on the season.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as physical addresses where there are structures that people come and go to, or,
How many houses?
Yeah.
We have 700 some water taps, so that's.
700 some.
closest we can get
Okay.
to giving you an idea.
Well, and like,
But that doesn't include condos and
Yes.
stuff, because it's more,
it's huge at some
you know, they
point.
maybe have 1 tap for 8 units or whatever, but that's a general idea. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's about 1,000 structures. So.
About 1,000 structures, okay.
How are we gonna keep the information?
It's a good question. How are we gonna keep?
you mean like in an Excel file or something, or
Yeah.
a data, some kind of
We need
database
to
program? Yeah.
Compile all of this information and have it ready, and how are we gonna do that?
Well, I mean, I don't mind typing an Excel list. It would probably need to be maybe in the Google Drive where everyone could access it, but, or at least view it. But it's gonna take some time and effort to get the people to actually respond, and a lot of times those may be the people who don't necessarily, check their email on a regular basis.
it sounds like
have to
it's
be
a good
careful.
first step to start with that.
One of the things I was thinking about is you could create a little brochure that had a page inside of explaining what it is we're doing. And then having a little, like a form to fill out on the back, this is my address, I need, whatever emergency power at night, if the power goes out or whatever, don't have transportation. We'd have to devise those questions, but we could create that little brochure and put it for the breakfasts we do, for the homeowners association and the events that we have. We could just distribute that so that, just to supplement the email that we're gonna send,
Right.
so that people would
And
be
just-
more aware of it.
Yeah, tie it to the emergency plan.
Yeah.
And Ms. Already, the way that we typically, for thoroughness, we actually have signs, like, if we can put signs at the post office, we can put it in our water bills.
Mhm.
We can also, even though it's kind of a heavy lift, we can put door hangers. That's an effective way to get people, because we know better ages email.
Right.
A lot of times, door hangers are a way that we can, that would require going door to door, but we do that when we need to. So there are other ways to get folks' attention besides email.
And I think we need to emphasize that this is confidential material. Not everybody's gonna be able to view what your medical issues are.
Right.
Jason, do you guys want to figure out what we're gonna ask and how? Kind of come up with your recommendation of like door hangers and.
Like, even if we come up with a brochure, it could be attached to a door hanger and just, you know,
Cover both of them.
Once you create a spreadsheet, you will know all of the addresses we have. You can see who has not responded. And if you got everybody to respond, even if they don't need anything, say, yeah, we're good. You know, so that you can check them off the list.
oh,
You
really,
wouldn't
I
have
was
to
thinking.
put door hangers on 100 people that have already done it.
It's a big wish to hope we get 100% of, but
So-
it'd be great.
Yeah.
So what Tony, I think, is saying is, we send out the survey like we normally do. And then if we have non-responses to that, then maybe we go to the door hangers for those specific addresses.
Are you thinking,
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Chairman, phone number, best phone number, email address type scenarios?
Yeah,
We probably could get a lot of that from a utility billing module, because, most of our water customers we have a phone number, an email address, and there may be a way to capture that, and maybe, we might even be able to, upload that into an Excel spreadsheet, so there may be a way to have some of that work already done. But, we pay a lot of money for Black Mountain for that, so there may be a way to do that.
yeah, so however, the most efficient, easiest way to put all that together, I would encourage you to do. Okay? Other than that, we had next steps that are in these memos, and that was, they keep the Property Owners Association buddy list updated. Is there a buddy list? Okay. Which will be shared with the police department.
Yeah, it's a key holder list, yes.
Okay, so we have that, so we just, the action step was keep it updated.
I think it would be good to contact the president of Grace, and maybe she can remind the people in the property owner meetings to make sure. they
Yeah,
do
and you could
this.
address it in your state of the city.
I can,
Right,
I will, thank you.
all right. And we talked about list of homeowners and contact information we just got done. And then Public Works, is there a published checklist of the stuff that you need to do in case of emergency?
Just the signage, when we put the signs and stuff out, and detours and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you had a whole list of stuff that when an emergency that your department would do. My question was, do we have a checklist posted back there in case you're out of town, or could you take on that action and?
Oh, yeah.
And have it, put it in the sheet protector, do whatever, but it needs to be posted on a conspicuous place. So that no matter who's here, who's available, who can we contact in your department, they know what they need to do.
Yes, sir.
Share that with me as well.
That'd be great, thank you. The country club concerning clubhouse potential accommodations in emergency, I think that was already done, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir,
they
it
agreed
was.
to that.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know about the chapel, but I can tell you in our new facility, we've got some capacity to do the same thing at Grace Chapel up here on the mountain. And we'd be happy to do
The
that.
club volunteered to, I think, when we were creating our evacuation plans, to be a place where injured people could come, and they were gonna set up a medical unit there. That was one thing, and he pretty much said anything else we need. So is that kind of what you're thinking for
Yeah.
your church, Bill?
Yeah, well, I think from our standpoint, we could house some people, feed people,
Oh, great.
but we don't have showers like they do at the
Yeah.
fire station.
Yeah.
And the facility is probably about the same size as the club.
Yeah.
Dining room and that other one, so we could house some people there temporarily for sure and feed them.
Okay.
Don't you think, David?
Yeah, and they have a lot of charging stations as well. How many charging stations do we have that's available to the public? I know the fire department has them.
You talk about generators?
No, well, they would, in some cases, there would need to be a generator. But next to medical emergencies, just having a charging, being able to go charge your cell phone so you can stay in touch. And I know in past emergencies, the fire department, it's been a big part of the service that you guys offer.
Right. Well, if they come up to the station, they can charge all they want.
Yeah, but we need to identify some that are more, in addition to that, to where we have 4 or 5 different areas.
Or we lose power, but
Yeah, our small station here in Sky Valley, we have a generator set up there too. If we set that up as one of our, emergency locations, our dispatch, basically be our dispatch center from there. We marshal up our equipment both in Scaly and Sky Valley. And, that would be, sort of our officers, if you would.
okay, so we can get that, Sharon, we can get that documented.
Are those the only 2 places we're saying, or would the club and the church also be, it just depends if there's a.
Well, the club doesn't have a generator, do they?
I don't think they do.
And we don't at the
And we
church.
don't- Yep. Did you say that the Sky Valley little outpost has a generator?
It will.
It will, good.
It's not a permanent one. We use one of our portable ones and just backfeed the station.
That covers a lot of ground between Scaly and that one.
Plenty of power there. It's just basically enough to keep our phones and radios up.
Yeah.
And charge our equipment in between runs. So,
If we get set up, can medical stations at both the church and the club, would you have generators that they could use at that point?
Nobody else is using them,
Yeah. All right, I mean, you all would need them as a fire department, I
yeah.
understand.
A lot of this, what you're talking about, there's a lot of residents in this city, and you can tell they're slowly migrating back, but, at least I can anyway by our runs, but, there's a lot of the oxygen generation, equipment out there in the city. And instead of us bringing a generator, we only have 3 generators to be able to loan out. I mean, it's not like, we have 1 million of them, okay? Like I said, it's my emergency, what I decide. It might be better if we transport those people to an area that has power. One of our stations or the church or something like that, if that's gonna have, if you're gonna have a generator there. Rather than scatter, like I said, I got 3. 4th one, it's like, sorry. So it might be better to bring these people to, one of our, one of the centers that has power. Basically, running 24/7 power. Than to scatter our stuff out. And depending on, who needs it, some people have battery operated oxygen generators. Just about everybody has a small mobile one. It's good for about a day. It runs on battery power for about a day. But after that, that's just gonna go, they're gonna be stuck at home.
Do we have a generator?
Yes, ma'am.
Public Works has a generator too, so that might be another.
Is that a portable one or permanent? Is that portable?
Sir?
The generator you have, is it portable?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
How big is it?
It is.
I mean, as far as watts and,
Jerry, I'd give him all the green light to get a couple more, or have you done anything with that?
We have 2, but we haven't got any more after that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my suggestion, that we should have 3 or 4 generators available here in the city, just.
So
We're gonna
take
need it.
wherever we need to
We
take.
need it here, and then wherever else we need to take it, plus what Ken has.
Now, my heavy rescue truck will possibly be pretty busy during one of those things, but it has a large generator on it. It's a 25 kW. It'll power this place without probably even knowing you flipped off the light. But, that, wherever we set that up, that's gonna be our mobile, a mobile EMS or, equipment. It's also got rehab. We can feed 20 people 3 meals off of that thing.
Yeah.
It's all set up to go right now.
Okay.
But
I think it would be good to have, if we had some sort of brochure kind of outlining the bullets, you know, that we have in place, that we will have in place in case of an emergency, and then ask the questions, but let them know what will be available to them if something dire happens. So that they feel more comfortable sharing the information. This is, you know, exactly why we want it, because we want to get the resources to people who need them.
Well, I think it's definitely, true that we're gonna need a command station, because people are gonna be calling and coming and, oh, what do we do, and where do we go? So we would definitely need to have a generator right here as our command station is
Yeah.
kind of what I have.
Phones are
I don't know,
tied to internet, which is, it's great if we still have internet.
if we still have internet, yeah. True.
Okay,
We don't have any analog backup phone lines here.
We have a really old phone. I don't know that it might, I haven't tried to plug it into the wall.
I'll try to-
well, I think that's a great point. I think you should have at least one
Everybody
landline.
ought to have one for crying out loud.
Jason, I think you need to have one landline phone here.
I mean, that old phone we have.
Yes, well, or just get
Yeah,
one,
those
just
ancient
a little cheap phone that you can plug in.
But do we have a,
We can reach out through this.
because I don't know that we have.
The fax line, well, is the fax line in all?
Yeah, we can plug it in there.
Would that be the same phone number?
It'd be the fax line.
It just creates another
Because people
problem.
are used to dialing this.
I'm sure, we'll get an analog phone somewhere. We'll get one this week.
Get you a bag phone and take it
I
around.
probably have it at the house.
Phil, I don't know if the country club even has a generator down there or not, but that would be a good spot to make it available for people within the community if they gotta go somewhere, so they're not having to, you know, drive to wherever you guys are, or whatever, and have some kind of charging capabilities there. So it might be worthwhile talking to them about
Designated where you
having that
Especially
as
if
part of the
it's a medical
backup plan.
station, it certainly needs one, you know,
Right.
that's what we
Well,
originally thought.
let's reach out to the club and ask them if they have a generator.
But just a thought, can I add something, please? With Ron having a non-emergency phone line, that is published and out there. So, I mean, people, you know, in that situation, because those phones work off a satellite system. So those, he should be able to get calls on that non-emergent line, you know, in case of an emergency.
Oh, we're done. We'll just tell everybody to call Ron.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a good point, good
That
point.
phone is transferred to whoever's on.
Right.
24/7.
I'm just curious, is that the 782-7777 number? What is that number?
408-1026.
What is the seven, because that's the one I have in Prescott Valley Police. Is that,
That's the county non-emergency.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the county. You're right.
okay.
If they could use that also, that's still in place.
I'm sure the dispatchers would much prefer them dealing straight with us than calling them for them to call us. You know, kind of trying to eliminate that for non-emergency stuff.
You reaching out to the club?
I was calling, I was texting Ryan to see if they had a
Oh,
generator.
okay, that's what I.
That's our mayor. She gets stuff done.
So you want to duplicate it?
That way you don't forget about it, right, Holly?
Well, you get a double salary this month.
Oh, wow.
No time like the present.
Call me 00. Okay. A lot of good stuff. A lot of action steps. Is there anything else that we're missing or we need to consider?
I was thinking, Bill, there are a lot of different potential emergencies that could be had, and each one would require a different sort of response. For instance, you know, a fire would require one thing, snow event that wipes out, you know, power and all that could
Yeah.
require a different thing.
Flood, tornado, hurricane.
Yeah,
We got it all.
tornado. Exactly.
Earthquake.
Yeah, earthquake, another one. So at some point, somebody's got to decide to implement some kind of plan. And I think we should designate the mayor as the person who, but, you know, sort of implements it, says, okay, we're gonna go into an emergency action position here to open these things. Well, you know, Holly, you could always ask Bill to do it for you.
That's true, I could. If I could get a part-time, I could get him on the phone.
So, but I think
I
having some
agree,
sort of
somebody needs to.
responsibility for that would be a good thing.
I agree. Unless I'm on one of my extended vacations,
Yeah.
bill related.
Well, then the mayor pro tem would be the.
That's it.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Hey, Bill, just another thought. I mean, I don't know if we've ever communicated this, but you know, you hear about having these emergency supplies ready at home in case of blah, blah, blah. I don't know if we've ever communicated or recommended anything to, you know, as part of this communication with everybody, or if there's a list of things because all we can do is advise them and suggest. We can't make them do it. But I don't know if coming up with a list of what that supply list should look like and what they should have at their house is something we might want to include.
I think that's a great idea, and, you know, having lived in the tropics and in Florida, we always had what we called a hurricane closet,
Yeah.
where we would have stacks of
Water. Yeah.
batteries,
Yeah.
battery powered radio,
Lights.
flashlights, you know, all that kind of stuff, so that
Well,
when something, we had an extended emergency like that.
yeah, and a big part of that is having a good portable charger for your phone that you can use and not have to worry about running somewhere if you can't get down the mountain or get anywhere, so.
A bunch of cans of chili. What chili?
You know,
But I'm serious, you know, I lived in Puerto Rico for a while. And when a hurricane comes through there, it can be weeks before you can get food or water or electricity or any medical care. So, you know, most people would have an entire closet, a big closet, just packed with canned goods and water and batteries and all this kind of stuff. You know, you might be, and that last big hurricane that hit down there, people were months without any of those things. In fact, we were sending water and supplies to people we knew there. And that takes forever because everything's got to be flown in or boated in, so.
You'll get a kick out of this. Our friend Bill Harrison, he has a closet full of freeze-dried food for like 2 weeks.
Right next to the closet full of wine.
Yeah.
He's good.
Mr. Chairman, I missed the last meeting. Is the ultimate goal to create a formulated document that would be adopted by the council?
Yep.
Okay. Was there any discussion about suspension of rules for purchases? Because I know I went to a conference a few months ago, and the county manager for Columbia County, which was decimated by Hurricane Helene, one of the biggest roadblocks they had is that he had to scramble council members to have a meeting if he had to go buy $100,000 piece of equipment. We have a fairly liberal policy now where up to $25,000, the mayor has the authority to spend, but if we had to go buy a $60,000 excavator because the city's wiped out, it would be very challenging to try to have an emergency meeting to have that approved. So that may be something, some type of suspension of rules that, you know, in that event, we can just ratify that after the fact.
We can do that in a document, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, something that just says in the event of a declared emergency.
Do a written recommendation on that.
Yeah, I think that could be incorporated into that. We might even want to tweak our financial policy, but I do think that would be important to keep us.
Yeah, if the mayor calls the emergency.
Yeah, that it kind of suspends the bidding rules and,
Right.
yeah.
Didn't the state just pass an additional law that hiked up what you could
It does,
spend without
but
coming to the council?
we'll have to amend our financial policy if we want to align with that.
Okay,
Yeah, the state, just what the mayor's talking about is state law used to be $100,000 you could spend without going through formal bidding. That's been increased to $250,000. Now, our policy, anything over $100,000, like for example, when we had the roads paved, we put that out to a sealed bid. we could amend our financial policy if we wanted to do that, but right now, anything over $100,000 requires sealed bids, but, just something to think about as we're talking about this, because,
Yeah.
I know when Helene came in, Jerry and his guys, man, they cleared trees for a week, and, you know, we needed every piece of equipment we had, you know, so.
Okay, so we write that up.
Those are that.
Once we get all of this assembled and given to the mayor, then it'll fall on the council agenda.
Okay.
Okay. What are we forgetting?
I think it would be cool if we, or maybe prudent, not cool, if we come up with a fake emergency and go through it all together to see how the steps work and what we've forgotten and,
So a drill.
yeah, a flow chart. So we
Flow
develop a
chart.
flow chart after we do our drills. And, Lisa, she can lay on the floor and she's injured and.
That's all I'm good for. I loved the suggestion though of having a plan for each specific emergency. And so
Yeah.
like maybe fleshing out the biggest emergency that we would consider, and then we can just shorten it for the lesser
Yeah,
emergency.
I don't want it to be overwhelming, but
Yeah.
we do need to have a flow
Like the
chart,
flow chart.
who to call and
Mhm.
Ghostbusters and all that stuff. Okay.
Anything else?
Do we need to have stations set up with water and does the fire department do that? Or is that not in your,
We can, we've got power water, ready to go at any time.
would you need that though for the people coming to your station?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
Jerry, that's a pretty healthy supply of water on hand.
It's gravity fed.
That's true.
We're turning
That's
off.
true. Unless they're having to leave their homes. Yeah, then they come
No,
see
it's
you
kinda
anyway. Yeah,
So then it's just a matter of them having sizable containers to get enough water to, meet, yeah.
Unless there's a major breach in the water system.
Yeah.
You should have, we got, what, 2-3 million gallons of water in the city?
Yes.
Yeah, that should suffice for a while.
yeah, as long as our tanks are full, we're good, yeah. We're good.
Maybe not millions, but we got it figured enough.
Yeah.
And we have generators on our wells, so, and they operate on propane, so, and we test those out weekly, so.
Yes, so they got a, automatic test control, they do it themselves. But if we have any kind of idea that they're not working right, we go by and manually check it, make sure that they're.
And those are like industrial size Caterpillar, mounted to the ground type generators.
Have we ordered the telemetry for the 2 tanks that we don't have telemetry on?
They are on order, just waiting to come in.
Okay, great.
Can you think of an event that would eliminate our water system?
Earthquake.
Earthquake, I guess, or if there's a breach in our water system somewhere, because it is all looped.
Or tornado could.
Tornado, yeah, there's another one, yeah.
The biggest thing that comes to mind, just already would be if we had a road washout, maybe there's a water line, along the water line from along the road, so
Or under,
if we had a 6-inch break, those are tank drainers. So that would be my biggest concern is probably an indirect, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but that would probably be the biggest thing, because like, for example, the Morley Bridge, isn't there an 8-inch that runs through there?
There's 2 lines.
Yeah, it's,
6, 7, 8.
Something, we got 15 inches of rain and mud, and that bridge was under water and it washed out. Well, we got a bigger problem, because we've got our access point lost, but
If you had half the city that was not being served with water at some point because of some tragedy or event, is there something we could do to help the people in that area? Maybe, is there another source for water that we could provide them so that they could have water But
Jared?
coffee, I mean,
I don't know, that might be you a Cody question. I mean, obviously, the first thing we have to do is
If you could,
cap the loss, but
if you could isolate those sections, like where you got it cut off, then you could keep a lot of people with water still, but other than that.
right, but if you had a hundred homes that were without water for something, is it, you know, it's gonna be a week or 2 weeks or whatever, you know, because of the scope of the event. Is there something we could do to provide water for those people? You know,
Jerry, is there a way to cut the water off at a tank individually? You know, and then say, if we had people just come up and just, for lack of a better word, run a faucet, a hose to that tank,
Oh,
to
yeah.
get water. But there's a way to isolate that tank where if we get a break, it's not leaking out. So that may be something we can explore.
Truck in water.
Yeah, because, you know, you're talking 100,000 gallon tank, most of our tanks, you know, we've got 4 in the main part of the city, we have the one up at Winding Ridge, so. And they're kind of distributed throughout, so there would be a possibility if people had to come up there to get it.
might be a good thing to advise people to include in their emergency pack, a 5-gallon container or 2. So that they could avail themselves of that if something like that happened.
Yeah, they can keep it empty, they don't need
Right.
it
Right,
nasty full of it just before
right,
whatever happens.
right.
You could, recover a lot as well in the pump houses. With the elevations of the tanks and stuff, you could go in there and people could catch water coming out of there as well.
You know, one of the things that we talked about, and I think you can tie into this very well, is it's kind of been unofficially called Sky Valley 101. The idea came out like maybe quarterly with all of the new residents, maybe we would have like a day where we can talk about trash and water system and addressing and have it. That might be a good time to, or even like having a permit for your golf carts. Maybe we could talk about, being that we are a mountain community, the uniqueness, we could probably talk about this emergency plan during those times, but we have had those conversations about coming up with some type of educational program we would do periodically to educate our new residents, but also our existing residents, because it's really surprising to me, like when we have a road closure, a tree down, somebody will call and they'll say, I can't get to my house and I'm on Saddleback, and they don't know there's another way to get around, and they've been living here for 10 years. They know one way to get home. And, so, you know, that there may be some
I think that's a
opportunities
good
there.
idea.
And we can add to that, because I want to start doing CPR classes and
Yeah.
online, you know, fraud classes. Maybe we can do it all at that time, you know, putting that together.
That kind of sounds funny, but you would be surprised that the people, when you have a section of road blocked off, that they don't know they can go the other way and get home.
Or how to turn their water off and all, we talked about.
Yeah, that is something too, yeah, we need to. Obviously, we need to take, advance that from talking to get it in action, so let's that free.
Ryan says they do not have a generator at the club, but they may have one at the maintenance building, and you'll find out, okay?
That may be a wise purchase, they're around $1,000, give or take, so they're not too terribly
Yeah.
expensive.
I don't think it'd be bad to have one.
We're gonna get probably about 3 more. So, and we'll have them, and we'll,
Okay,
yeah.
are we good? Now, we've got a lot of action steps there to write up in the minutes and, gather up some more information, all that, so that this kind of, final draft, I'll call it, could be put together, and, given to Madam Mayor, to take a look at it, and, then, probably, I guess we could fine tune it a little bit if we need to before we, schedule it, to go
I think it'd be good if
before
we got
council.
one from the club and maybe somebody from timeshares to come in, maybe to our next meeting, since they're part of this process too, and maybe somebody from the chapel. Do we have anybody from the chapel? I don't know who's on board there.
It may need to be incorporated in some of our short-term rental people, because that's the most vulnerable probably is they need to be able to reach out to their guests. Because if, you know, they're up here for 4th of July, the ADSDRs we have, 60 of them here, and they're not, they don't know where they're at. And we have an emergency, they're gonna be the first ones to handle.
Who would head that up, Jason?
Well, we could add that to the application,
Yeah.
really, and then have that a required document to be left in each home, like we said, the address and
Right,
stuff.
we could do that, yeah.
Okay. Are we good?
Thanks, man.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I don't know.
Tony, you are